Hey everybody, so I saw a question on my channel the other day, and I've been under the weather, sick with the virus, no, not COVID, and so I haven't had much of a voice, but the question was a common question I get, and I know I've answered it in many of my videos, and yet I was unable to find any of those videos, so I don't have this content under a content specific title, so I think it's just always been kind of sort of a supporting information. So I want to do a video proper on it, and that's this. When you're in a relationship with somebody who is narcissistic or borderline, once you figure out what it is you're dealing with, like, okay, now I know that he or she is a narcissist, right? There tends to be this immediate concern and worry that what if I'm a narcissist too, right? Because you will have gone through so many personal attacks where they mirror you or they project onto you or they point things out about your own personal behavior. They always flip it back on you. And so this is a very common concern that that I see with people who are just now coming to the light and knowing that they're dealing with a narcissist and just starting down this path. So if that's you, I'm assuming that's you because you've made it here to this video. The short answer is no, you're not a narcissist. Is that the whole answer? No, it's not. And so it's not just as cut and dry as saying yes you are or no you're not. And so there's many dimensions to it that I want to get into. And I'll try to do this succinctly. So first of all, you need to understand that we as conscious individuals are typically the sum of the 5 people we spend the most time around. Hence the term falling in with the wrong crowd, right? So the people you associate with, you will pick up parts of their psychology. So you will make all of these little voluntary changes to yourself for acceptance within that specific group. And so once you fall in with narcissistic people, and this usually starts in childhood, perhaps you have a parent that is in the cluster B, or maybe is your best friend or a family member. Maybe you have a sibling that is born with a propensity for it. It does happen, and if not properly raised, can develop that way. But the more time you spend around people, the more compatible with those people you become. Which means if you grow up spending a lot of time around toxic people, you will grow into a toxic person compatible individual. And here you are, and you had no idea that people were toxic. They were just the people you were around. And ta-da! That's what you've become, okay? Even if that's not the case for you, let's say you had a great upbringing and you're fine, and you fell in with this one person that promised you the world and gave you sawdust. Even if that's you, then what you have to understand is through the process of narcissistic abuse, same as the group dynamic, you will make all of these very small, subtle, voluntary changes in the name of acceptance, you know? And they're not always things that we consciously do. Like if you're with somebody and you're out with friends and you laugh at something, you're like, ha, and the person you're with is like they just give you like this look, then you're not going to be so quick to laugh again. You're like, oh, what? I must have done something wrong, so I better just tone it down. And before long, that happens too many times. You just become this quiet wallflower kind of person. You know, that's one example. But you will have made a series of voluntary changes to yourself over time. And if it starts from childhood, it becomes a lot more difficult to change yourself into a person who is incompatible with toxic people and compatible with healthy people. And that would be the category I fall into because both sides of my families were overwhelmingly cluster B. I'm very fortunate in the fact that once I graduated high school, I moved 500 miles away and I put myself through engineering college and got my bachelor's in engineering, and never had to move back in with family. Once I was out, and I stayed out, and I did it at the age of 19. Um, and that was no easy feat, but I did it because as soon as I made it to college at my young age, I quickly realized that the way my family did things is no prescription for life, because I was surrounded by people that all seemed to be compatible with each other. None of them seemed to operate on the emotional equity type basis that I had developed, or being people pleasers and putting myself out and sacrificing for, like, the things that I had to spend my entire life doing weren't working in college, and so I realized that, oh shit, well, clearly this can't just be a problem with everybody in the world, and had to work very hard from that point on to change myself. And none of this stuff, I didn't really know anything about what I went through until I turned 34 and discovered all of this stuff. So many years I was struggling to find my way, and didn't know. So so that's where I'm coming from with all of this. And your journey may be different, but the fact still remains: when you spend time around people, it's an example I like to use is you get cut like a key based on the company you keep, right? So you're a key, and when you have a relationship, you're simultaneously a key and you're a lock, right? So when you're trying to gain acceptance with a person or to a group, they are the lock, you are the key, you're trying to fit into that lock. Vice versa, the people you allow into your life, you are the lock and they are the keys. And to say that you're a good person or bad person is a lot like saying, are you a good key or a bad key? Well, that's sort of not relevant. A good key is one that goes into the lock you expect and unlocks the lock you expect. But it could also be the wrong key for the wrong lock. If you have a door key to your house or apartment or flat or humble abode, wherever you live, if you have a door key and that key opens your front door, that's pretty good. But you can't go crank your car with that key. Doesn't make it a bad key, just means it's the wrong key, and therefore it's always going to be the wrong fit. Now, you can also have a door key that doesn't work for your door, or say you try to go to the wrong unit because you're drunk or you just moved there, and you put your door key into the wrong door and the lock doesn't open. Does that mean it's a bad key? No. Does it mean it's a bad lock? No. Is it the right match? No. And thank God for that. Because if you do that here in Texas, that's how people get shot, just sneaking into somebody else's house like that. So it's a lot like that. You get cut like a key based on the company you keep. Now, are you a narcissist? That term narcissist, you have to understand one thing about narcissism, and this is where a lot of people go off the rails. So this is very important. Please listen to this. The trait of narcissism, that as a personality trait, is something inherent to all people, all individuals. Women especially know this. You have to be narcissistic when it comes to dating and sexual relationships and marriage and having kids. It is your body. It is your life. Any kids that you have are yours. And so therefore, especially younger women have to have these higher standards for dating, right? You have, when you're young, you're in your youth, you have the most available options, and you can sit there and say, no, he's a dirtbag, he's a low life, he's a low life. I want that man right there at the top of the ladder. And that's what you go for, right? That is narcissism, and it's not toxic narcissism. That is necessary narcissism. Because all narcissism is putting yourself first, simply put, and having standards and holding others in judgment, and all things in that realm. Now, when you make decisions like this, you are behaving narcissistically. Okay? So it's a personality trait, but it is also a description of behavior. You can behave narcissistically, okay? So maybe you're not a narcissist. You could be an empath or any other personality type, but it is entirely possible for anybody to behave in a narcissistic manner at any point in time that they feel it is necessary, okay? And that's different from narcissism, and that's different from being a narcissist. A narcissist is somebody who behaves narcissistically so much to the point that it now becomes the dominant driving force behind who they are and where they're going and what motivates them. So a narcissist is somebody who regularly behaves in a narcissistic manner and makes their choices based on narcissistic decisions. So that is a narcissist. And you'll find very high levels of trait narcissism and narcissists in some of the highest paying positions, especially things like attorneys, doctors, medical professionals, people who are perceivably high up on the totem pole, executives. You will find higher levels of narcissism there. And it's because it requires, in order to attain those levels, you must put yourself first very, very frequently and make decisions that are in your best interest and not others very, very frequently. The more agreeable you are, the less narcissistic you can be. And agreeable people tend to not climb as high on the ladder because they tend to care about others to the point that they can't get ahead in their career. So even being a narcissist, you can be a narcissist and you can be what's called a high functioning narcissist, right? Just because an attorney or a doctor is a narcissist doesn't mean they are toxic, doesn't necessarily make them a bad person. And it usually, like in the case of being an attorney, it's usually to your advantage to have somebody like that because they're not agreeable and they're going to get you the best possible outcome with complete and total disregard for the people on the other side of the courtroom, because at the end of the day, that's what you pay them to do. So you will get the best possible representation from somebody like that. And for you, they are the hero. Now, that doesn't mean that they go through life and apply that, at the sandwich shop or at the golf pro shop or at church or anything like that. Some of them do. Habits are hard to break. But just because somebody is a narcissist doesn't mean that they're toxic, and it doesn't mean that they are destructive. But there are ones who are, and that's the final form. That's the narcissist in the ultimate form, narcissistic personality disorder. And that is when it's so pervasive that they don't even know or understand that what they're doing is causing a path of pain and destruction in their lives. As far as they can tell, they've figured out how to make it. They've learned the secret. They've worked very, very hard to get to where they are. And not everybody's willing to make the tough decisions and make the sacrifices that they've made. And that's fine. But a lot of times people just want to blame somebody else for their own failures. And that's not my fault. And in some cases, that is a valid observation. But then when it comes to things where it is absolutely their fault and the things that they are doing and the pain that they are causing and the trail of tears they leave behind them, they can't be told that it's their fault because they have that viewpoint of, no, people are responsible for their own lives. I'm responsible for my life. They're responsible for theirs. And when you get to that, such a high level of narcissism, therapy is not going to help them because they're not going to think anything's wrong. You cannot tell somebody that has narcissistic personality disorder, you can't just tell them that they're wrong and that they're a narcissist. They're just going to laugh at you and they're not going to believe it. And they're going to continue doing whatever it is that they are doing. So that's all the different definitions of a narcissist. So if you're with a narcissist, does that make you a narcissist? No. It just means that you've picked up some of the traits and the behaviors. And they call that narc crumbs, like crumbs, right? You can pick up crumbs from narcissists. And not to mention during the trauma bonding process, if you've been abused by a narcissist, it is very, 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 very common for abuse survivors to continue displaying traits of their abusers for well over a year, sometimes years, until they've fully healed from the experience. And that's because with the abuse, it just imprints things on you, and it just imprints things in your mind. And it's very, very difficult to unimprint it because it has been burned into your brain by a traumatic event. It's not so easy to undo. It really isn't. And that doesn't make you a narcissist. It just means that a narcissist left their thumbprint on on you and who you are. And so begins your journey to self-love and healing and learning how to move on. The last thing I will leave you with, if you're here this video, and if you've made it this far, congratulations. A lot of people don't watch videos this long. A lot of people want the solutions and answers to life in a 3-minute or less video, and that's not me. That's why they're still looking for answers too. Some of these things are just very complex, and you're not going to get it in a 3-minute video. You just won't. That is, how do you heal? How do you move forward? You know, what do you do to get over this person? And you know, it's not so straightforward sometimes. You know, what you need to do, first of all, is just know and recognize the bad parts of you. Open your mind to the fact that you're not perfect, and you've learned a thing or two. Above all else, the first thing you need to do is learn to recognize red flags. If you've fallen in with a narcissist, they are not the first disordered person in your life. I can promise you that. Most assuredly, they are not the first toxic person to be in your life, not the first cluster B, probably not the first narcissist. You just thought they were really great, successful people. Learn to recognize the red flags. There's a great book by Joe Navarro called Dangerous Personalities, and you need that book. Study that book. It is the inarguable encyclopedia of all things red flags. The thing I love most about it is it splits all dangerous personalities into 4 types: paranoid, predatory, narcissistic, and emotionally unstable. And that makes it very, very simple for you to lens others. It also comes with questionnaires that what you do is, if you want to know if an individual is toxic to you or possibly a dangerous personality, you can fill out this little questionnaire about a person and then score it, and it will tell you whether or not they're a dangerous person or a dangerous personality, and likely how dangerous are they. And so it's an excellent exercise for you to do, because after you do it for a few people, oh, you'll be addicted. You'll just start remembering all the bullies from the past, all the crazy exes, all the family members, everybody, and you'll just start going through it and be like, I knew it, right? And then there's some that will surprise you. But it's a great exercise to get started learning what the red flags are. That is something you must absolutely do, because the first step in healing is making sure you know how to keep toxic people out of your future. And the only way you're going to do that is to learn to recognize them from a far, far distance so that they never get close. And this book is perfect for that. Dangerous Personalities by Joe Navarro. Look it up. And with that, I will end this video. If you have any other questions, comments, or questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. So thanks again for watching. I'll see y'all on the next video.